If you had asked me just a year ago what my wedding day would look like, I would have told you about a white dress, a sunny day, and the sound of laughter filling every corner of my family's old house in Boston. I used to close my eyes and imagine myself walking down the aisle, my parents beaming with pride, Daniel waiting at the end with that nervous smile of his. I had been planning every little detail for months, right down to the color of the napkins and the songs the band would play. I believed in fairy tales, and I believed, at least until that morning, that my life was about to become one. But as it turns out, nothing in life ever happens quite the way you plan it. That morning, I woke up before the sun, my heart pounding with excitement and nerves. I wandered downstairs, hoping for the familiar smell of coffee and maybe a quiet moment with my mother, Margaret, before the chaos began. Instead, the kitchen was empty. No one was home except for me and the echo of my footsteps. It was strange. My parents, Charles and Margaret, were nothing if not unpredictable, but I never thought they would miss my wedding morning. I checked my phone for any messages, maybe a note explaining where they had gone, or when they would be back. There was nothing. I wandered through the silent house, remembering how it used to feel when I was a child, safe, noisy, alive with laughter and love. Now it felt hollow. Just as I was starting to worry, my mother appeared in the hallway, her suitcase in hand, dressed in her favorite blue travel dress. My father followed behind, sunglasses perched on his nose, his face impossible to read. My heart jumped. "Where are you going?" I asked, my voice coming out a little higher than I meant. My mother didn't answer right away. She simply handed me a box wrapped in shimmering gold paper, tied neatly with a red ribbon. "A gift for your future," she said. Her voice was calm, almost cold, and she didn't meet my eyes. Before I could ask anything else, she turned away, calling over her shoulder that they had a plane to catch. My father gave me a brief hug, a formal pat on the back, not the bear hugs he used to give when I was younger. And then they were gone, the front door closing behind them like the last word in a sad story. I stood there, clutching the box, feeling more alone than I ever had before. I wanted to scream, to run after them, to beg them to stay. But I didn't. Instead, I walked slowly back to my room, holding the box as if it might break. The next few hours passed in a blur. My bridesmaids arrived, chatting and laughing, trying to keep my spirits up. I smiled, pretended everything was fine, but inside I was trembling. I couldn't stop thinking about my parents. Why would they leave? Why today of all days? My heart raced every time I glanced at the gold-wrapped box sitting on my dresser. Finally, unable to wait any longer, I sat down and carefully untied the ribbon. My hands were shaking so badly that it took 3 tries just to open the box. When I lifted the lid, I gasped out loud. There, carefully folded, was my wedding dress, the dress I had picked out with my mother, the one she said made me look like a princess. But now it was ruined. The edges were blackened and singed, and the delicate lace melted in places. It smelled like smoke and heartbreak. On top of the dress was a single sheet of paper. I unfolded it with numb fingers. In my mother's sharp, elegant handwriting were just 7 words. "Let's see how you get married now." For a long time, I just stared at the letter. I couldn't understand. My mind raced, trying to piece together the meaning. Was this some kind of sick joke? A message? Or was it simply proof of what I had always feared, that my parents didn't really want me to be happy, not if it meant marrying someone they didn't approve of? That was when my phone rang. The sound was loud in the quiet room. I saw Daniel's name on the screen, and for a brief moment, hope flickered in my chest. Maybe he could make this all better. Maybe we could still have our happy ending. But when I answered, his voice was low and tired. "Anna," he said, and just hearing my name made the tears start to fall. "I'm sorry. I can't do this. I can't be part of your family. They've made it clear they'll never accept me. I love you, but I can't put you through this. I can't put myself through it, either." I tried to protest, to tell him we could run away together, start a new life far from Boston, but he was already gone. The line went dead, and with it, the last piece of my dream crumbled. I collapsed onto my bed, clutching the burnt dress to my chest, sobbing until there was nothing left inside me but emptiness. I felt like a ghost in my own life, unwanted, abandoned, ruined. The girls downstairs eventually left, their laughter dying away as they realized there would be no wedding today. The house grew quiet again, and I listened to the silence, wondering how everything had gone so wrong so quickly. That night, I sat in my childhood room surrounded by memories of a happier time. The gold box sat in the corner, a cruel reminder of everything I had lost. I thought about my parents, flying off to Hawaii, sipping cocktails on the beach while I was left behind to pick up the pieces. I thought about Daniel, about what could have been, and I wondered if I would ever feel whole again. But deep down, I knew this was not the end of my story. It was just the beginning, no matter how much it hurt. I wiped my tears, squared my shoulders, and tried to imagine a new future, one where I could stand on my own, no matter what anyone else thought. And in that quiet, lonely night, I promised myself that I would not let this be the last chapter. When I left my family's house in Boston, I took almost nothing with me. Just my phone, my wallet with a few dollars tucked inside, and that burnt wedding dress, stuffed haphazardly into a shopping bag. I wandered through the city in a daze, not really knowing where I was going, but knowing I could not stay there any longer. The house that had once been filled with love and laughter was now a place I could never call home again. I caught a late bus to New York, figuring it was as good a place as any to lose myself. My mind kept playing everything over and over. My parents leaving, Daniel's voice breaking over the phone, the ruined dress, and that cruel note. All my life, I had tried to be good, to be the daughter my parents wanted, the woman Daniel deserved. And in a single day, it all came undone. The city lights blurred through my tears as the bus rolled into Manhattan. I felt small and invisible among the crowds. The cold air nipped at my skin as I stepped off the bus, and I realized I had nowhere to go. I walked aimlessly, passing glittering shops and busy restaurants, the laughter of strangers floating through the night. Each sound felt like a reminder of what I had lost. Eventually, I found myself on a wooden bench near the corner of Fifth Avenue. I sat down, shivering in my thin coat, clutching the shopping bag like it was a lifeline. The dress inside still smelled faintly of smoke. I thought about calling someone, but who would I call? My friends were Daniel's friends, and my parents had made their feelings clear. Even if I could afford a hotel, I didn't want to hide in another empty room. All I wanted was for someone to understand me, just for a moment. People hurried past, their faces turned away. I wondered if anyone saw me at all, a woman in a wrinkled dress with swollen eyes, her dreams stuffed in a plastic bag. Maybe I looked crazy, or maybe I just looked broken. I didn't care anymore. I let myself cry, the kind of cry that comes from deep inside, the kind that leaves you gasping for breath. For a long time, I sat there, letting the city carry on without me. I don't know how long I sat on that bench, lost in grief. The world around me was a blur until the screech of tires pulled me out of my haze. A sleek black car slowed to a stop right in front of me. The back door opened and, out of the car, stepped a man. He was tall, with dark hair neatly combed back, and he wore a navy suit that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Even from a distance, he looked expensive. I watched him approach, wary and exhausted, my heart pounding in my chest. "Miss, are you all right?" he asked, his voice gentle, with just a hint of an accent I couldn't quite place. I tried to wipe my face and sit up straighter, but the tears kept coming. "Do I look all right?" I shot back, my voice raw from crying. As soon as I said it, I regretted the harshness, but I was tired of being polite, tired of pretending I was okay. To my surprise, the man smiled, not mocking or smug, but with genuine warmth. "Fair enough," he replied. "But would you mind if I offered you a warm meal and maybe a little company? No strings attached. Just someone to talk to if you want." His kindness disarmed me. I hesitated, torn between fear and the simple human need to not be alone. I looked at him for a long moment, searching for some sign of danger, but all I saw was concern. Against my better judgment, I nodded. He introduced himself as Henry Goldsmith. The name meant nothing to me then, but something about the way he said it told me he was used to being known. He gestured toward his car, and I followed him, holding my ruined dress close. The driver nodded to him as we climbed in, and in minutes, we were gliding through the streets toward a quiet, elegant hotel just off the main avenue. Inside, Henry led me to a table in a cozy restaurant with dim lights and soft jazz playing. He ordered hot tea for me and coffee for himself. For the first few minutes, I couldn't speak. I was afraid that if I started, I wouldn't be able to stop. But Henry just sat quietly, waiting. Something about his silence made me feel safe. Eventually, the story spilled out of me. My parents leaving, the burnt dress, Daniel's call, the loneliness that had chased me to New York. Henry listened, never interrupting, not even when my voice shook or when I grew angry. He nodded, his eyes kind and steady. When the food arrived, I realized how hungry I was. I ate slowly, embarrassed at how ravenous I felt. Henry talked just enough to keep the silence comfortable. He told me a little about his work, something about investments, travel between New York and London, big offices, and bigger risks. But mostly, he wanted to know about me. Not about my family, but about me, my hopes, my fears, the things that made me laugh. For the first time in days, I felt seen. Not as someone's daughter or someone's almost wife, but as myself. Henry didn't judge, didn't offer empty platitudes or quick fixes. He just listened, and somehow, that was exactly what I needed. As the night wore on and my plate emptied, I felt a strange sense of calm settle over me. I was still lost, still hurt, but not quite so alone. Then, just as I was about to thank him and slip away, Henry surprised me. He looked at me across the table, his expression serious. "Anna, I know this sounds sudden, maybe even crazy, but sometimes life gives us a second chance when we least expect it. Marry me." I stared at him, too stunned to speak. He leaned forward, his voice gentle but sure. "You don't have to decide tonight, or even tomorrow. But let me give you a new story, one where you are loved and respected, not for what you can do for someone else, but for who you are. I promise, I'll treat you better than they ever did." For a moment, the world stood still. There, in the quiet glow of the restaurant, my broken heart dared to hope again. Looking back, it still feels unreal how quickly everything changed. One day, I was sitting on a bench in New York, with nothing but a ruined dress and a shattered heart, and just a few days later, I was standing in the sunlight behind a beautiful house in Connecticut, saying vows to a man I'd only just met. Even now, I wonder if people would believe me if I told them how it all happened. Maybe I wouldn't believe in myself, except I lived every moment of it. After that night at the hotel, I didn't sleep much. I lay awake in the crisp white sheets, listening to the quiet hum of the city outside the window, thinking about Henry's offer. Marry me. 3 simple words that seemed impossible, reckless, and yet, somehow, exactly what I needed. There was something about Henry's steadiness, his warmth, and his certainty that calmed the storm inside me. I realized that for the first time in a long time, I wanted to say yes to something, yes to the unknown, yes to myself, yes to a new beginning. The next morning, as the sun broke over the city, I found Henry in the hotel lobby, drinking coffee and reading the paper like any other Monday. He looked up when I walked in, and I could see the question in his eyes, though he didn't ask it out loud. I sat down across from him, took a deep breath, and said, "Okay, let's do it. Let's get married." He didn't say anything for a second. Then a slow smile spread across his face, and he reached for my hand. "Anna, I promise you, this is the start of something good." Everything happened quickly after that. Henry made all the arrangements. He was a man who knew how to get things done. Within a few hours, we were on the road, leaving the city behind. He drove us north, through winding roads lined with tall green trees and past towns I'd only ever read about in books. Eventually, we arrived at his home in Connecticut, a grand old house with ivy climbing the brick walls, wide porches, and gardens bursting with flowers. It felt like stepping into another world, a world that was calm and safe, where pain couldn't reach me. We decided to keep the wedding small, just the 2 of us, his younger sister Laura, and a kind judge from town who owed Henry a favor. Laura arrived the next morning, full of excitement, her arms loaded with things she thought I might need: a simple white dress, some borrowed pearls, a tiny bouquet of daisies. She hugged me tightly and whispered, "Welcome to the family. We're not perfect, but we love hard." It was more than I had heard from my own family in years. We were married that afternoon, standing barefoot in the grass under a willow tree. The sun was warm on my face, and for the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe. There was no orchestra, no audience, no burned dresses or angry parents, just the sound of birds, the soft laughter of Laura, and the quiet strength of Henry's hand in mine. When the judge pronounced us husband and wife, Henry looked at me as if I were the only person in the world. "Anna," he said, his voice steady, "whatever happened before, it's over now. This is our beginning." That night, we celebrated with a simple dinner at home: roast chicken, fresh bread, a little champagne Laura found in the cellar. We sat on the porch as the sky turned pink and purple, talking about everything and nothing. Henry told stories about growing up, about losing his parents young, and about how he built his business from scratch. He talked about Europe, London, Paris, Zurich, places I had only seen in magazines, places he traveled to as easily as most people go to the grocery store. But he also talked about what he wanted for the future. Not just success, but peace and family, laughter and love. "Money is just a tool, Anna," he told me, his voice soft in the evening air. "It can make things easier, but it can't buy happiness or heal wounds. What matters is the life we build together. I want to build that with you." I believed him. For the first time in years, I felt hope, real, tangible hope, not just the wishful thinking I had clung to when I was with Daniel. With Henry, everything felt possible. The days that followed were filled with small joys and gentle routines. Henry showed me around the house and the gardens, introduced me to the staff who had worked with his family for years, and made sure I never felt alone. Laura stayed for a week, teaching me how to bake bread and sharing stories about Henry as a boy. We laughed until our sides hurt, and for the first time since my world fell apart, I felt like I belonged somewhere. Every morning, I woke up early and watched the sunrise from our bedroom window, amazed that such beauty could exist after so much pain. I started keeping a journal again, writing down every small victory. The first time I smiled without forcing it, the first time I felt safe in Henry's arms, the first time I laughed until I cried. We went for walks through the woods behind the house, sometimes talking for hours, sometimes just enjoying the silence. Henry never pushed me to talk about my parents or Daniel. He let me come to him in my own time. When I finally told him the whole story, he listened quietly, holding my hand and promising that none of it mattered anymore. His family, what was left of it, welcomed me without question. Laura treated me like a sister from the start. Henry's Aunt Margaret sent me a sweet letter from London, inviting us to visit whenever we were ready. For the first time, I felt the ache of my own family's absence start to fade. I was building something new. At night, as we lay side by side, Henry would tell me about the future he imagined for us, a future full of adventure, laughter, and love. He dreamed out loud about traveling together, building a life where we could help others, maybe even start a family of our own. Each time he spoke, I felt a little braver, a little less haunted by the ghosts of my past. If you had told me, just a week before, that I would be married to a billionaire in Connecticut, I would have laughed in disbelief. But now, as I walked through the halls of that old house, Henry's hand in mine, I knew that sometimes the best stories are the ones you never see coming. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly, wonderfully free. 3 days after our wedding, the world seemed strangely calm. It was the kind of peace I had never known before. Quiet mornings with sunlight streaming in through the windows, the gentle hush of the Connecticut countryside, and the steady presence of Henry by my side. We had settled into a gentle routine, our lives interwoven with comfort and the soft thrill of something new. That morning, as I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, Henry's parents arrived from New York for a visit. I had been nervous to meet them, but from the moment they walked into the house, Mr. and Mrs. Goldsmith put me at ease. They were nothing like the caricatures I had pictured in my mind. They were warm, elegant, and genuinely curious about me. Over lunch, they listened as I spoke about my childhood, my favorite books, and even my awkward love of crossword puzzles. There was no interrogation, no judgment, only the sort of acceptance I had always longed for. After our meal, Laura suggested we take a family photo out in the garden. The sun was bright, the sky was a clear blue, and I found myself laughing as Henry made faces to get everyone to smile. We stood close together, arms linked and shoulders touching, and for a moment, I let myself believe that this warmth, this connection was real. Laura snapped the picture, Henry and I in the center, his parents on either side, all of us smiling beneath the tall willow tree. Later that afternoon, I posted the photo on my social media. It felt like a small act, but in truth, it was something much bigger. I wanted to share this new life, this new family, with the world. I thought perhaps that my parents would see it and reach out, not in anger, but in understanding. I thought maybe, just maybe, we could find a way back to each other. I couldn't have been more wrong. Within minutes, my phone began to buzz. First, a few calls, then a flood, texts, voicemails, messages on every platform I had ever used. The screen lit up again and again with my mother's name, my father's, numbers I didn't recognize, but somehow knew belonged to them. The messages came so fast I could barely read one before another replaced it. How could you? After everything we did for you? Why didn't you tell us? Who are these people? You're ungrateful, Anna. After all we gave you. Come home. This isn't your real family. At first, the words stung. It was as if every old wound had been ripped open at once. I remembered being a little girl, trying so hard to please them, to make them proud, to earn a love that always felt just out of reach. My hand shook as I held the phone, reading message after message, my parents' anger pouring out of the screen. Henry noticed my distress and gently took the phone from me. He didn't say anything, he didn't have to. He just held my hand and waited for my breathing to slow, for the storm to pass. Laura came in, saw what was happening, and simply sat beside me, her presence a quiet comfort. I realized then that family could mean something new, something that wasn't measured in blood or duty, but in kindness, in patience and love. I thought about responding to my parents, about trying to explain, but deep inside, I knew it wouldn't matter. Their anger wasn't really about Henry, or the Goldsmiths, or even the photo. It was about control, about the life they wanted for me, not the one I wanted for myself. I put the phone down and, for the first time, chose silence. I didn't need to defend myself anymore. I didn't need to chase after a love that was always conditional. The next few days were difficult. The calls kept coming, the guilt pulled at me, but each morning I woke up and found a little more strength. Henry and I built our rhythms, cooking breakfast together, reading in the garden, taking long walks in the woods behind the house. Sometimes we would drive into the city for dinner or to catch a show. Life felt lighter, unburdened by old expectations. It wasn't long before we started traveling. Henry's business took us across America and even to Europe. I saw places I had only dreamed about, London's old streets, the cafes of Paris, the golden light of Rome. Yet, no matter how beautiful the places we visited, it was always coming home to America that made me happiest. Our house in Connecticut became my sanctuary, a place where I could truly be myself. As the months passed, the pain from my past faded into something smaller, softer. There were days when the memories would creep in, the wedding that never was, the family I left behind, the harsh words that still lingered in the quiet corners of my mind. But each time, Henry was there. He never tried to fix me or erase my history. He just loved me through it, steady and sure. I learned to trust again. I learned to love, not out of fear or obligation, but out of genuine joy. The Goldsmiths became my family in every way that mattered. Laura became the sister I never had, sharing secrets and dreams over endless cups of tea. Henry's parents welcomed me at every holiday, every celebration, making sure I always knew I belonged. My parents never really forgave me. They continued to call and write for months, but their words grew fewer and their anger faded into silence. It hurt, but in time I realized it was okay to let go. Not every story ends the way you expect, and sometimes letting go is the bravest thing you can do. Whenever I think of my burned wedding dress, I no longer feel the ache of loss. Instead, I see it for what it truly was, the end of something, yes, but more importantly, the beginning of everything. It was a symbol of all I left behind, but also all I dare to seek out for myself. I built my life with Henry, day by day, learning that happiness is not given. It's chosen, protected, and fiercely held onto. America was our home, Europe our playground, but wherever we went, we carried our new family with us. And now and then, I would look at that family photo, the one from our garden with the Goldsmiths all smiling, and remember that sometimes the family you make is the one that saves you. My story didn't go the way I planned. It went the way I needed. And that, I think, is the true definition of a happy ending.